521 years is the magic number that acts as a death sentence for our dreams of seeing a live Triceratops. This is the half-life of DNA. It means that every 5 centuries, half of the chemical bonds in a genetic sequence snap, turning the complex blueprint of a living being into useless molecular noise. Even if a dinosaur bone were preserved in a perfect vacuum at absolute zero, every single bond would be disintegrated after 6,800,000 years. The dinosaurs vanished 65 million years ago. We are nearly 10 times too late to the party. The amber trap mosquito, the very foundation of a multi-billion-dollar movie franchise, is not just a long shot, it is a biochemical impossibility. We are trying to solve a trillion-piece puzzle when 99% of the pieces have literally turned into carbon dust. The shocking reality is that amber, which we once viewed as a perfect time capsule, is actually a hostile tomb. Resin is an aggressive chemical substance that, during the process of polymerization, effectively hollows out the soft tissues of an insect. When scientists have attempted to extract DNA from inclusions tens of millions of years old, they consistently find nothing but modern pollen or the DNA of the researchers themselves. As of today, the oldest reliably sequenced genome belongs to a mammoth that lived 1.2 million years ago. That is the current record for our reach into the past. Between that mammoth and the last Tyrannosaurus rex lies a crushing abyss of 64 million years of total genetic silence. However, the hunger to resurrect the monsters of the past hasn't died. It has simply transitioned into a new state of matter. If we cannot find the original blueprint, we are attempting to calculate it. Biological science is moving from the role of a librarian to the role of a programmer. We look at birds, the direct descendants of theropods, and we realize that their genome still contains archived files from the Jurassic period. These are atavistic genes that evolution simply switched off. In chicken embryos, teeth and long bony tails with vertebrae still begin to form in the early stages before they are suppressed by specific proteins. Scientists have already learned how to block these off switches, resulting in creatures the press has dubbed Chicken-o-saurus. They have toothy snouts instead of beaks and clawed hands instead of wings. We aren't digging up dinosaurs, we are waking them up inside their descendants. But even if we could edit the DNA of a bird to make it look exactly like a dinosaur, we would still face the crisis of biological software. DNA isn't just a physical map. It's a manual for behavior, instincts, and metabolism. How do you feed an animal whose digestive enzymes were tuned for ferns that went extinct 100 million years ago? What happens to the immunity of a creature that has never encountered a modern virus or bacterium? The air of the Mesozoic era was fundamentally different. Oxygen levels, carbon dioxide concentrations, humidity, and temperature were radically at odds with our current world. To a dinosaur, Earth today would feel like a foreign planet. It would experience life much like a human on the summit of Mount Everest without an oxygen mask, in a state of constant suffocation, freezing cold, and surrounded by toxic microflora. The financial reality is equally staggering. Creating a single viable individual of a species whose genetics were reconstructed artificially is estimated to cost between $500 million and $1.5 billion. This isn't just lab equipment. It's the cost of supercomputer modeling for protein folding, the creation of artificial wombs, and endless cycles of trial and error. Out of 1,000 embryos, perhaps one might survive, and even then, it would likely possess severe congenital defects. We risk creating not a majestic predator, but a suffering, mangled entity that lives only through constant injections and a life support habitat. A real-world Jurassic Park would look less like a safari and more like a sterile intensive care unit, where every minute of the exhibit's life costs tens of thousands of dollars. Then there is the moral barrier that shatters the ambitions of billionaires. Resurrecting a species is a responsibility not just to the animal, but to the entire ecosystem. Dinosaurs have no niche in the modern world. Their appearance would either be an ecological disaster for local species or result in a miserable existence where the animal spends its entire life in a concrete box under the gaze of cameras, a high-priced toy for the public. Nevertheless, CRISPR technology and synthetic biology make the question of when more relevant than how. We are already on the doorstep of resurrecting mammoths, a project that serves as a dress rehearsal for the attempt to storm even older epochs. We are stuck in the present, reaching for a past that is locked tight by the keys of entropy and time. But humanity has never been good at stopping before a closed door. If nature erased the data, we will write it again. The only question is whether we are ready for the fact that the code we write might contain bugs that cannot be fixed once the incubator opens and the first dinosaur in 65 million years lets out its first cry in a world that wasn't expecting it. The barrier of 6,800,000 years is not just a chemical deadline. It is a technological wall that forces us to stop being archaeologists and start being architects of life. If we cannot extract the past, we must simulate it, and this is where the science of de-extinction moves into the terrifying territory of synthetic biology. In 2013, a group of researchers in Australia successfully resurrected the genome of the gastric brooding frog, a species that had been extinct for 30 years. They did this by using a process called somatic cell nuclear transfer, the same technology used to create Dolly the sheep. However, the frog was a recent ghost. To reach back 65 million years, we are no longer looking for a preserved cell. We are looking for the ghosts of sequences hidden within the living. The most promising and arguably the most controversial path to a dinosaur involves the backbreeding or reverse evolution method. In laboratories at Harvard and Yale, scientists have identified that the transition from dinosaur to bird was not a total deletion of data, but a series of genetic silencers. For instance, modern birds do not have teeth because of a single gene mutation that occurred roughly 80 million years ago. By using CRISPR-Cas9, a molecular pair of scissors, biologists can effectively snip out the silencer. When this was done to chicken embryos, the resulting organisms began to develop enamel-covered conical teeth, identical to those of a velociraptor. They were not growing new teeth, they were being allowed to express a trait that had been suppressed for eons. This leads us to the Chicken-o-saurus project, which aims to create a creature with a snout, a long bony tail, and 3-fingered claws. While the visual of a dinosaur-chicken hybrid is often treated with a touch of humor, the underlying biology is a masterclass in genetic manipulation. The tail is perhaps the most difficult hurdle. Modern birds have a fused tailbone called a pygostyle. To recreate the long, flexible tail of a dinosaur, scientists must reactivate the genes responsible for the growth of caudal vertebrae. In 1999, a mutation was discovered in a mouse that caused it to grow a tail twice its normal length, proving that the length of the spine is a variable that can be dialed up or down. If we can dial the spine of a bird back to 1834 era paleontological descriptions, we have moved one step closer to a living fossil. However, even if we build the perfect physical vessel, we face the mitochondrial mismatch. DNA in the nucleus of a cell is only part of the story. Mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, have their own separate DNA. If we place the edited nucleus of a dinosaur-like bird into the egg of a modern ostrich, the two different types of DNA may not communicate. This is like trying to run a high-definition video game on a computer from 1995. The metabolic rates would be out of sync. The dinosaur might grow too fast for its heart to support, or its cells might age at a rate 10% faster than normal, leading to a creature that lives in a state of constant biological collapse. Then there is the issue of epigenetics, the study of how the environment turns genes on or off. A dinosaur born today would not have the same environmental triggers as a dinosaur born in the Cretaceous. The plants it eats, the sounds it hears, and the gravity it experiences all play a role in how its body develops. Without a dinosaur mother to provide the correct hormonal environment in the egg and the correct social cues after hatching, we would be raising a creature with severe psychological and physical abnormalities. We are not just talking about an animal that looks like a dinosaur. We are talking about a creature that would be a biological stranger to itself. The cost of these experiments is another staggering number. To fully map the atavistic genome of a single species and successfully bring it to term would require a budget exceeding $200 million. This is why de-extinction is currently the playground of billionaires and private corporations rather than public universities. When a company like Colossal Biosciences raises over $200 million to bring back the mammoth, they are not just doing it for the sake of science. They are looking for the patents on the technology used to do it. The dinosaur is the ultimate intellectual property. If you can own the genetic code of a Tyrannosaurus, you own a product that transcends the laws of nature. We are currently in a beta phase of resurrection. The projects involving the passenger pigeon and the woolly mammoth are the proving grounds. If we can bridge the gap of 4,000 years for a mammoth, we will have the tools to start bridging the gap of 65 million years for the dinosaur. But every step forward reveals a new layer of complexity. We are realizing that life is not just a sequence of letters, but a symphony of interactions between the environment, the cell, and the history of the planet itself. We may be able to build the instrument, but we are still a long way from knowing how to play the music. The final verdict on whether we will ever walk among dinosaurs comes down to a choice between two futures: a world of authentic resurrection or a world of high-tech imitation. We must accept that we will never have a true, 100% genetically pure Tyrannosaurus rex. The 65 million year gap is a vault that time has welded shut. However, the year 2035 might bring us something that looks, moves, and breathes like a dinosaur, but is actually a masterpiece of synthetic biology. This creature would be a genomic chimera, a bird with a reptilian snout, a long tail, and teeth, but its core metabolism would still be that of a modern ostrich or emu. It would be a biological actor wearing the costume of its ancestors. The ethical and legal implications of this are a massive gray area. If a corporation successfully manufactures a dinosaur-like organism, who is responsible for its welfare? Unlike an endangered species, which has a natural habitat and a place in the ecosystem, a resurrected dinosaur is a non-being in the eyes of current environmental laws. It would be entirely dependent on human intervention for its survival. We are talking about a creature that would need a specially filtered atmosphere, a diet of lab-grown prehistoric plants, and a habitat kept at a constant 28 degrees Celsius. To keep such a being alive would cost an estimated $10 million per year, turning it into the most expensive prisoner in human history. Furthermore, we have to consider the risk of genetic leakage. If these modified atavistic organisms were ever to escape into the wild, they could interbreed with modern bird populations. We could inadvertently reintroduce predatory dinosaurian traits back into the modern ecosystem. Imagine a population of wild turkeys or geese that suddenly begins expressing the hunting instincts and serrated teeth of their ancestors. We would be rewriting the rules of the food chain in real time, potentially triggering an ecological collapse that could take centuries to stabilize. We are playing a game of biological chess where we only see one move ahead, while evolution is playing 10 moves ahead. The ultimate scientific answer to why can't we resurrect dinosaurs yet is that we are still learning the language of the genome. We have the alphabet, and we can spell a few words like teeth and tail, but we haven't learned how to write the full story of an apex predator. We are currently at the same stage in genetics that the Wright brothers were in aviation at the turn of the 20th century. We can get a few meters off the ground with a mammoth or a frog, but we aren't ready for a supersonic flight into the Mesozoic. The wall isn't just time, it's our own current level of understanding. In the end, perhaps the greatest lesson of the dinosaur mystery is that extinction is a vital part of the Earth's rhythm. By trying to undo it, we are trying to stop the clock of the universe. We may eventually succeed in creating a park full of prehistoric-looking wonders, but it will never be the Jurassic period. It will be the synthetic period, a testament to human ingenuity and, perhaps, our refusal to let go of the past. As we continue to edit the code of life, we must ask ourselves if we want to be the guardians of the world we have, or the creators of a world we can never truly control. If this journey into the chemical and biological barriers of the past has gripped your mind, then your quest for truth is just beginning. We are uncovering the secrets of our planet one layer at a time, and the next discovery could change everything we know about life itself. To stay at the edge of this scientific frontier, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are the first to witness our next investigation. If you think we should keep the past in the ground, or if you're holding out hope for a real-life dragon, tell us your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button to support the channel and share this with anyone who thinks a mosquito in amber is all it takes. Stay curious, Stay skeptical and join us next time as we dive deeper into the mysteries of the unknown.